The key stopped at 10 o'clock and wouldn't turn. I took it out, breathed on it like it was the problem, and tried again. Same brick wall. Mum opened the door with a new brass deadbolt shining over my shoulder. "Oh," she said, like I was a delivery. "The spare key belongs to your sister now. My name is Lana Rose. I'm 35, and I do medical billing at a pediatric clinic 20 minutes away from the house I grew up in. I moved back into that house for 6 months last year to help my dad when his cancer treatment got serious. I kept my apartment the whole time because I thought I'd come back to it when he felt stronger. He never did. We buried him on Tuesday. Today is Thursday." "New locks?" I asked. My voice came out flat. I held up my key anyway. "Insurance," Mum said, glancing past me at the quiet street. Salt crusted the edges of the porch. "People know when there's been a funeral." Emerson appeared behind her, robe tied in a pretty bow. She's 28, good at starting conversations and not finishing chores. "We were just about to make tea," she said, not moving from the heat spilling out of the doorway. "I came to grab a few things," I said. "My charger, the binder from Dad's desk." Mum stepped onto the mat and pulled the door close behind her. The new deadbolt clicked with a smug little sound. "The spare key belongs to your sister now," she repeated, like maybe I hadn't heard it the first time. "She's the one who's been here." "I was here," I said, and heard how small it sounded. 6 months of medication schedules, waterproof pads, and the furnace cutting out at 2 a.m. Me on hold with the gas company in the laundry room so Dad couldn't hear the music they play when you're waiting to fix a problem nobody sees. Mum's mouth tightened. "You did your nights. She did the days. She kept me company during chemo. She earned the house." There it was. I looked at Emerson. She looked at the wreath on the door like it was suddenly fascinating. "It's Mum's house," she said, soft. "I'm just here?" "Right," I said. "While I was here, I put the gas in my name because the furnace kept cutting out. It's still in my name. Autopay is still running." Mum waved a hand, the way you shoo a fly. "You're good with bills, Lana. Don't make this ugly." "We're all tired." Behind her, I could see the hall table where Dad kept his change. The dish was still there, quarters winking. His slippers were gone. I had put them in a bag and set them by the donations pile, and then hated myself for being efficient. "I'll need the binder," I said. "The blue one with the receipts." Mum shifted, blocking the door more squarely with her body. "I'm sorting things." "It has my name on half of what's inside," I said. "Furnace repair, co-pays, the grocery runs I did when Mum couldn't leave." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't say, "Remember who changed his dressings." I didn't say, "Remember who slept in the chair." Emerson's hand slid up and down her robe tie. "Can we not do this on the porch?" "Sure," I said. "Can I step inside?" Mum's face did something complicated and then smoothed out. "The spare key belongs to your sister now," she said for the 3rd time. "You moved out." "I moved back to my apartment yesterday," I said, "because I was told to take a break." I could still feel the indent of the hospital bracelet Dad gave me to cut off the day before the hospice nurse came. "We'll get your things together," Mum said. "I'll have Em drop a bag at your place." The neighbourhood was too quiet. That funerals after quiet where even the crows sound respectful. Lyle from next door was stacking his trash cans against the wind and gave me a nod. He had shovelled our sidewalk the morning of the service without being asked. I nodded back. "Okay," I said, stepping down. My boot slipped a little on the salt. I steadied myself with my hand on the railing Mum had always said she hated because it made the house look old. "I'll text when I'm on my way to pick up the binder. Please don't throw out anything that looks like a bill." "We're not monsters," Mum said, offended. "I didn't say you were," I said. "I said, don't throw out the bills." Emerson's smile flickered on, the one she uses when rent is due. "We've got this, Lan. Go rest. Dad would tell you to go rest. Dad would tell me to eat something, and then tip his head toward the thermostat because he knew how the furnace sounded when it was about to give up. He would dig in the junk drawer for batteries and make it into a magic trick." I swallowed. "Text me about the binder," I said, and walked to my car. In the driver's seat, the cold hit different, the way it does when you don't have somewhere to be. I pulled my apartment key off my ring and held the old house key between two fingers. The metal had a notch worn smooth from years of use. I didn't throw it away. I flipped open the glove box and slid it in beside the registration, a useless little relic. I slipped the dead key into my glove box like a tooth the tooth fairy never picked up. The charge hit my phone at 7:12 a.m. 312.04, mid-state gas, pending. My stomach did that slow elevator drop. I sat on the edge of my bed and opened our group text with Mum and Emerson. Me. A 312 gas bill just hit my card. The gas is still in my name from when I moved home for Dad. Transfer utilities into your names by Friday, or I stop payment and close the account. The typing bubbles pulsed and disappeared. A minute later, Emerson. Don't be dramatic. You know you're good with bills. A thumbs up emoji from Mum landed. Nothing else. I stared at the blue bubble on Don't Be Dramatic, then at my own reflection in the black edge of the phone. I had a note I made the week after Dad's first round of chemo, when a social worker at the clinic talked to me about burnout. I opened it. What I will do: rides, meds, meals, bills for the household while I'm living there. What I won't: run accounts for people who change the locks on me. I showered, packed a yogurt and a banana, and drove to work. The clinic hallways were warm and bright and smelled like hand sanitizer and crayons. Michaela caught my eye over the front desk and raised her eyebrows. I just tapped my phone. Later, on our 10, she asked, "Family?" "Autopay ghost," I said. "Gas." She made a face. "Kill it." I called the gas company on my lunch break. The whole music was the same soft jazz I used to listen to on their old phone while Dad slept. A woman named Carla came on the line and asked for my account number. I read it off the last statement in my email. "I need to cancel Autopay," I said, keeping my voice even. "And I want to schedule closure of the account in my name. The current occupants will be taking over." "We can remove your card today," she said. "Closure requires a date. When would you like service to end?" "How soon can you do it?" I asked. My hands were steady on the desk. "We can schedule for tomorrow," Carla said. "Please make sure the new party calls to open an account. There's a $25 transfer to setup fee. If service is off before they call, there's a $75 reconnect." "Okay," I said. "Please cancel Autopay now. Schedule closure for tomorrow at 5 p.m. She tapped. "Done. You'll get an email confirmation. And can you put a note that Lana Rose is no longer authorized? No one should be able to add my card back without me." "I've added a passcode," she said. "Do you want me to give it to you now?" "Yes." I wrote it on a post-it and stuck it under my keyboard. The confirmation hit my inbox before I hung up. I printed the last statement because paper talks louder in my family. The laser printer thumped and whirred. The heat of the page warmed my fingers. Back at my apartment after work, I sat at the tiny table by the window and wrote on a sheet of lined paper in block letters so there'd be no "we couldn't read it" later. "Transfer the gas into your names by Friday at 5 p.m. Call 5555-0168, Mid-State Gas. Ask for a new account. Transfer fee, $25. After 5 p.m. tomorrow, the account in my name closes. I will not pay further charges. If you need the last statement, it's attached. Lana." I added the account number and taped the bill to the back with blue painter's tape so it wouldn't take paint if they ripped it off angry. I took a photo of the note and the bill side by side and texted the photo to the group. Me. "I'll leave this on the front door now." No reply. The late afternoon was the kind that looks pretty and feels mean. The wind needled through my coat as soon as I stepped out of the car at the curb. Lyle's truck was in his driveway. He was bent under the hood with a shop towel over his shoulder. He glanced up, gave me the same small nod as yesterday, then looked back at whatever he was fixing. I walked up their walk and smoothed the paper flat against the glass storm door. The door was cold enough that my fingertips came away a little numb. I tore strips of tape with my teeth, pressed the corners down, pressed the middle for good measure. The note looked almost official against the glass. Black letters sharp, the account number underlined twice. Inside, I could hear the murmur of the TV, a laugh track, the clink of dishes. I didn't knock. I didn't want a conversation that would turn into a memory, that would turn into an apology I didn't owe. As I turned to go, my phone buzzed in my pocket. Another thumbs up from Mum. Emerson was quiet. I slid the phone away. At the bottom of the steps, I paused and checked the tape again, tugging gently. It held. I walked back to my car and got in, blowing into my hands until the sting eased. The printer heat had worn off. The note's ink had barely had time to settle. I put the car in drive, eyes on the mirror, and left the block before the ink dried. By Sunday morning, my phone had a hangover. Missed call icons stacked from last night. Mum, Emerson, Mum again. The last voicemail preview stopped at, "I just," and an inhale. I set my mug on the radiator and watched my window fog at the corners. The email from Midstate Gas sat in my inbox, crisp and boring. Service closed 5 Heights p.m. Friday. Account holder, Lana Rose. Balance, 0.20. I'd cancelled Autopay. There was nothing left for them to tug on. At 9:03 a.m., my screen lit up with Mum. I let it buzz twice and then answered. "How could you?" she said, skipping hello. In the background, I heard a cabinet door smack and the clatter of a pot. "It's freezing. I can see my breath." "You got my note?" I said. "We thought you were bluffing." Emerson's voice came from somewhere near the speaker, smaller. "It's Sunday, Lana." "I gave you until Friday," I said. My voice sounded like I was explaining a copay at work. The account in my name closed at 5. "Just pay this month," Mum said. "We're grieving." "You know you're—" "No," I said, and felt how clean that was. "Here are my terms. I'll pay the $75 reconnect fee one time if you transfer the gas into your names today, and Venmo me the $312 by the end of the month." A spoon scraped a bowl hard enough to bend it. Emerson sighed, the long-suffering kind she used to give teachers. "We'll do it next week. Just get it back on now." "Today," I said. "If you don't transfer it today, I'm out." No reconnect. Silence on their end, the kind that used to make me start filling it with solutions. "Are you really doing this to your mother?" Mum said finally, tight. "Your father would—" "Dad liked to plan," I said. My radiator knocked from deep in the wall, a warm, hollow applause. The note had the number. "Call them." "Fine," Mum snapped. "Just this once. Transfer, repay, then I'll cover the reconnect," I said, steady. "Call me when your names are on the account." "Don't hang up," Emerson said quickly. "Wait, I'll be by my phone," I said, and ended the call before I could hear the sigh I knew was coming. I put the phone face down on the table. The cup left a wet ring on the radiator. Outside, a plough scraped the side street and somebody's dog barked at it like an insult. My hands shook a little and then stopped. I ate toast over the sink and let crumbs stick to my sleeves. 10 minutes later, Emerson texted, "This is so extra. We're freezing." Mum's fingers are blue. I typed and deleted twice, then sent. Midstate Gas, 555-80168. Transfer fee is $25, 3 dots. Gone. Nothing. At 10:21, another call. "Mum." I let it roll to voicemail. A minute after that, "Emerson." I answered. "Okay," she said without preamble. "We called. They said we have to open a new account. They need Mum's ID and a deposit, maybe? Can you just call them?" "They said you have a passcode." "They can open a new account without me," I said. "The passcode is to keep my card off. That's staying." A cupboard banged again. "You're being cruel," she said, but her voice was low. Not a fight, more a script. "I'm being clear," I said. "You can do this. Ask for a supervisor if you need to. The fee is $75 to reconnect if it goes off." I said, "I'll pay that after you transfer and send the $312. "It's already off," she said, a tiny wobble finally cracking through. "The radiators are cold. We plugged in a space heater and Mum tripped the breaker, and now the microwave won't work." "Flip the breaker back on," I said, "and please don't run a space heater on an extension cord." That outlet by the pantry is on a different circuit. "Since when are you an electrician?" she snapped, which was safer for her to be mad at than the meter in the basement. "Since Dad taught me which circuit pops when the toaster and the kettle run at the same time," I said. "Call the gas company." She exhaled like a balloon dying. "Fine." I set the phone down again. I printed another copy of the last statement and slid it into a sleeve in my blue binder because paper soothed me. My apartment smelled like coffee and dust and the lemon cleaner I'd used on the counter last night. I answered a message from Michaela. "You good?" with a thumbs up and a snowflake. At noon, Aunt May's name flashed across my screen. I didn't pick up. It went to voicemail, long and windy, the kind where everyone's just concerned means they want you to go back to the girl who handled everything. I didn't listen to the end. By 2, the call slowed. Cold makes people efficient. A text from Emerson popped up with a photo of Mum's ID and the words, "They're making this impossible. We need the last 4 of Dad's SSN." "You don't," I wrote back. "He's gone. It's your account now." 3 dots, then nothing. At 3:40, Mum's name filled the screen. I answered. "Transfer's done," she said, clipped. "They said reconnection is $75. Pay it." "Venmo me the $312, I said. "I'll call and pay the $75. A beat. Then, "We don't have it right now," Emerson said, softer. "End of the month?" "That's what I said. By month's end." Another clatter of something metal. Someone muttered. Then the line went quiet in that old, punishing way. "I'll call Midstate now," I said. "Text me a screenshot of the new account holder page. Names and address." A flurry of keys, a ping. The screenshot arrived. Wendy Rose, Emerson Rose. I saved it. I called Midstate Gas and paid the $75 with my card. Carla wasn't on shift, but the man who answered took the payment and gave me a reconnection window. Tonight or tomorrow morning, depending on texts. I texted them the window and put my phone on Do Not Disturb. A minute later, a voicemail landed anyway, because favourites slip through. Mum's voice, sharp and sweet. "I'll remember this when the will is read." The binder's rings bit my palm when I snapped them open. Plastic sleeves fanned out, all the little pockets I'd stuffed full without thinking while I was living there. Co-pays, pharmacy receipts, the furnace guy's carbon copy invoice with a tear-off corner. Monday. My apartment was quiet except for the radiator ticking. Warm and smug. The reconnection window Midstate gave me had been tonight or tomorrow morning. And from Mum's last voicemail, "I'll remember this when the will is read." I hadn't learned which. I put my phone face down and worked the way I know how, names and numbers in order. I slid 6 months of receipts into the sleeves, fronts facing the same direction. September. Anti-nausea meds, grocery runs with bananas and broth circled. October. The first time the furnace groaned and died, and I called at 2 a.m., the $189 service charge, replaced igniter, written in a rushed hand. November. Co-pay after co-pay. December. Space heater I bought and left in the hall closet, the one they were now plugging into extension cords. On my 10 at the clinic, I called the bank. The woman on the line had a bright voice and a script that didn't make me feel stupid for not having done this already. "I want to replace my debit card," I said. "New number. I had a utility on Autopay, and I've closed that account. I don't want any surprise charges." "We can do that," she said. "Do you want to set purchase alerts as well? We can text you for any online or recurring charge attempts." "Yes," I said. "All of it." She read disclosures. I said yes. She told me the new card would be at my apartment in 5 to 7 business days. In the meantime, I wrote alerts on in the corner of the post-it with the Midstate passcode and stuck it beside my monitor at work. On my lunch, I called Midstate again and got a different rep, a man named Dave who sounded like he was eating pretzels between calls. "I just want to make sure my card isn't stored anywhere," I said. "The account in my name is closed." He clicked. "Looks closed. Payment token deleted. And just so you know, The new account for that service address is under different names. We can't attach you to it without your authorization and our passcode." "Good," I said. "Thanks." "You got a reconnection window," he said, reading. "If a tech didn't make it last night, they'll be by this morning. Someone 18 or older has to be present?" "They are," I said, and hung up before I could make that my problem too. Around 2, my phone buzzed with Lyle's name. He never calls. He's a lean-on-the-rake kind of talker. "Hey, Lana," he said when I answered. Wind sizzled in the phone, like he was outside. "You good?" "I'm okay," I said. "You?" "Cold over there," he said. "Looks like they've got an orange extension cord from the living room into the hallway and one of those little cube heaters running. I don't want to be nosy, but those things make me nervous." I could picture it. The cord snaked under that lumpy rug Dad always tripped on, the little red eye of the heater glaring. "Thanks for letting me know," I said. "They've got the number for the gas company. A tech should be by today." He made a thoughtful noise. "If they need an extra blanket, I've got some old army wool in the garage. You want me to offer?" "I think that would go over better from you than me," I said. "But don't put yourself in the middle." "I already live next door," he said, dry. "Kind of comes with the pipes." I smiled without meaning to. "Thanks, Lyle." "Anytime," he said, and hung up. After work, I stopped for printer ink and clear tape. Back home, I put the binder on the living room floor and sat cross-legged. The coffee table had a ring where a planter used to be. I wiped it with my sleeve. I slid the furnace invoice into a sleeve and wrote the date on the tab in neat block letters. Dad's handwriting peered up at me from a corner of a pharmacy bag. His full name, in that neat script he taught himself after the tremor started. It felt like touching his shoulder by accident in a crowd. I called the pediatric clinic's voicemail to check tomorrow's schedule. My voice sounded normal in my own ear. I answered a text from Michaela. "How's the glacier?" with a picture of my radiator and the clap emoji. Then I opened my email and made a folder called House, closed and dragged the mid-state confirmation into it. I took a screenshot of the screenshot Emerson had sent me yesterday, new account holder, Wendy and Emerson, and saved it under theirs, time-stamped. I set a folder rule to ping me for any purchase over $100, which my bank would mirror. The ache came in honest then, not wrapped in a bill. I let it. I remembered Dad tilting his chin toward the thermostat like it was a puzzle we could solve, and me pretending not to know he wanted my hands to be busy so I wouldn't look at his. I leaned back against the couch and breathed in dry radiator heat that smelled a little like dust. My phone buzzed. "Aunt Maeve, your mother says you cut the heat to punish her. True?" Aunt Maeve's text sat open on my screen while my oatmeal went cold. "Your mother says you cut the heat to punish her. True?" I typed back, "No." I closed my account Friday at 5 p.m. after giving them the transfer number and a written notice. They opened their own account yesterday. I paid the $75 reconnect. Going forward, bills go to the names on the account. I attached the screenshot Emerson had sent. New account holder, Wendy Rose, Emerson Rose, and set my phone face down. A minute later, the typing bubble appeared, disappeared, and then nothing. That told its own story. At 9, there was a light knock on my apartment door and the smell of latte before I even opened it. "Peace offering," Emerson said, holding out a cardboard tray with 2 coffees, and that smile she uses to talk landlords out of late fees. Her hair was tucked into a knit cap I recognized from my old Target bag. I stepped back, and she came in on a breeze of cold and vanilla. "It's early," I said. "I figured you'd be up." She set the tray on my tiny table and looked around like she'd forgotten what my place looked like. Radiator, table, binder, open with tabs like a file cabinet. "It's so warm in here." "The heat works," I said, keeping my tone neutral. She pulled a cup free and pushed the other toward me. "Just hear me out. Until spring, okay? It's a few months. Winter's brutal, and Mum is, you're good with bills. You set the stuff up. Just keep it going a little longer." "Keep what going?" I asked. My card on your account? Her face did a practiced little wince. I mean, not forever, just until we get through this. Dad would want the house warm. I picked up the coffee lid and clicked it back into place. The house can be warm with the accounts in your names, I said. I tapped the open binder with one finger. I gave you the number, the fee, the steps. I paid the reconnect once. I won't be the account again. She parked her hip against the radiator like she belonged to it. Mum's putting the house in my name, she said, pretending to study the colour of her latte. Like, officially, you know I've been there. I let that float and sink between us. That's between you and Mom, I said. The gas bill is between the account holder and Mid-State Gas. It's expensive, she said, small, letting the showy smile loosen. We used the space heater and blew a fuse, and the guy on the phone said something about a deposit? That's insane. Sometimes they ask for a deposit on new accounts, I said. It's normal. It gets credited back after a year of on-time payments. You can ask about a waiver if you've got prior history with them. She set her cup down a little harder than she meant to. Just until spring, she said again, softer. You know how to do this. I'm not trying to dump everything on you. I'm just not you. I know, I said. That's why I made you something. I reached under the binder and slid out a slimmer, cheap 3-ring I'd picked up last night when I bought printer ink. Clear cover, first page a list in block letters, Mid-State Gas, 5,555,168. Transfer fee, $25 reconnection, $75 call, scripts, dates, account numbers. Everything I'd used to carry in my head and on my card. Behind it, copies of the furnace invoice, the last statement, the reconnection confirmation. I turned it so she could read. I'm dropping this on the porch, I said. After that, all money questions go to the people whose names are on the bills. Her mouth opened, closed. So that's it? You wash your hands? You, of all people? I'm not washing my hands, I said. I'm giving you the sink. Her laugh came out surprised, then bitter. Mum is going to lose it. She already tried, I said. She'll be okay. She's always okay. When the will... I said, and her eyes flicked up. I'm not playing futures. Today, the account is yours. The heat is yours. If you hit a wall, call the company. Ask for a supervisor. They have customer service just like everyone else. She looked at the binder like it might bite. You're really not going to call for me? No. Even if I cry? She said, mouth quirking like we were kids again, and she was trying a bit. Especially not then, I said, but I didn't smile. We stood in the small hum of my radiator. Outside, a bus wheezed to a stop and a kid yelled, muffled through the glass. Emerson tucked her hands under her arms and nodded once, like she was agreeing to a dare she didn't like. Okay, she said. Okay, drop it on the porch. I'll go now, I said. I closed my own thick binder and slid it onto the shelf by the door. The slim one went under my arm. I zipped my coat and tucked my scarf in. She watched me put on my boots like she wanted to snatch the plan back out of the air. Instead, she picked up her coffee. You know Mum's going to tell everyone you're punishing her. Maeve already asked, I said. I told her the truth. We walked down the hall together. At my door, she paused. Dad would have hated this, she said, but she didn't sound sure. Dad liked when the thermostat matched the room, I said. This is that. She didn't argue. She followed me down the stairs and out to the cold where our breaths wove. We got into our separate cars. At their house, I pulled to the curb. The wreath on the door was listing, one pine cone gone. The glass in the storm door reflected my coat like a funhouse mirror. I didn't knock. I balanced the slim binder on their porch rail, right where a hand reaching out would see it, ringed the bell, and left before anyone could hand it back. By late morning, my phone was dinging like a slot machine. Aunt Maeve added me to a new thread called Family, which is how I knew it wasn't going to be about casseroles. Maeve, I don't want to be in the middle, but family pulls together. Your mother is having a hard time. Could you please just keep the heat going until spring? It's what Ernest would want. A number I didn't have saved chimed in. My cousin Leah, I think. I haven't seen her since a graduation party with a sheet cake and folding chairs. Leah: Not my business, but it's just a bill? We all help our mums. I paid my mum's car insurance last month without making it a thing. Emerson dropped a heart on that. Mum didn't type. She never types in group chats. She forwards. I took a breath that didn't catch and pulled up my camera roll. I had everything because I always have everything. I made a single image. The $312 statement, the note I taped to the door with the mid-state number and the transfer fee, and a screenshot of my text about the Friday deadline and the one-time reconnect. I drew a blue box around the line that said, account holder, Lana Rose, and another around the new account screenshot she'd sent me Sunday. Wendy and Emerson. Me. Here's the bill, my offer, and the transfer instructions. The gas account is now in Mom and Emerson's names. I paid the $75 reconnect once. Going forward, all money questions go to the account holders. I hit send and muted the thread. On iMessage, that means little crescent moon. On my end, it felt like putting earplugs in before a band you don't like. The bubbles bounced. Maeve wrote 2 paragraphs about tone and the optics of cutting your mother off. Leah added, we're all grieving. Emerson sent a snowflake emoji and then a crying face. I didn't read past the previews. I tapped the info icon at the top of the thread and left. It let me because everyone's on iPhones. Small mercies. Then I opened Mom and Emerson's contact cards and toggled hide alerts. For numbers I didn't recognize that started in our area code, I slid the block switch. It wasn't a technology solution so much as a boundary with an on-off button. Michaela poked her head into my cubicle just before lunch. Your focus face is on, she said. Family thread, I said. I sent a screenshot and mooned them. She grinned. Proud of you? At 1, I ate my sandwich over my keyboard and scheduled a refill for a kid's inhaler because I like to do something straightforward when my relatives are composing epics. The bank pinged me for a $10 charge at the coffee shop downstairs, Michaela treating herself, and then went quiet. No utility charges, no strange autopays. The new card would get here next week. Until then, I was dry. By 2, my phone vibrated with Lyle's name. This time he texted a photo. A white van angled in front of Mum's house, mid-state gas in blue on the side. A guy in a beanie carrying a toolbox up the steps. Lyle: looks like your folks are getting sorted? I sent a thumbs up. No one from the house called me. That said more than any apology would have. I let the silence do its job. The radiator hissed a little when the heat kicked on in my apartment. Outside, light went flat in that winter way that makes 4 o'clock feel like midnight. I took out the slim binder I'd dropped on their porch in the morning and opened the copy I'd made for myself. Under the first page with the mid-state number, I'd slid a second sheet with a line I'd written for myself in big slanted letters. You already did it. You don't have to do it again. I set the binder back on the shelf and turned to practical things. I set my phone to filter unknown senders into a separate tab. I moved the house. Closed email folder to the top of my screen so I'd see it first. I put Dad's old pocket knife, the one I'd found in a bowl of random screws while I was packing up the garage, on my windowsill. It caught the weak sun and made a thin, bright line across the wall. Maeve called. I let it ring out. A minute later she texted, "Okay, I see the screenshot." I didn't reply. People figured things out faster when I wasn't there to cushion the floor. When I left work, the air had that metallic taste that means snow's coming. I pulled my scarf up and walked to my car. Lyle was bringing his trash cans back in, and he lifted a hand. "Heat's on," he called, voice tucked into his coat collar. "Good," I said, and meant it. Back home, I kicked off my boots and set my phone face down on the counter. The apartment felt like a held breath I could finally let go of. No voicemail. No, just one more thing. I boiled water and made tea and stood by the window, watching little puffs of steam billow up and fade. The group thread went quiet after I left. My individual threads stayed grey and still. No one asked for my passcode, my card, my magic fix. My radiator tapped a lazy rhythm in the wall. At 4:52, a text pinged from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, then opened it because the preview showed an image. It was a screenshot of the utility account welcome page, the same one Emerson had sent me 2 days ago. Same timestamp, same font, same line under services active. The top read, new account holder, Wendy Rose, Emerson Rose. The quiet held for most of the afternoon. I made tea, answered 2 messages from Michaela about a billing code, and set my phone on the counter with the screen down. The blue crescent moons sat next to half my conversations like tiny helmets. At 3:11, Mum's name lit up full screen. Favourites slipped through. I let it ring twice, then picked up. Finally, she said, bypassing hello. The TV murmured behind her, and a spoon hit something ceramic. I don't appreciate being humiliated in front of my own sister. I left the thread, I said. If you have something concrete, say it. Her inhale hit the microphone. You are cold, Lana. I'm consistent, I said. You have the account in your names. I paid the reconnect one time. You owe me $312 by the end of the month. That's it. You think you can hold money over my head, she said, voice going thin. I'm telling you my terms, I said, and kept my tone like I was reading a prescription. Transfer complete. Repay the $312 by month's end. I won't be attached to your accounts. I won't call companies for you. If something gets shut off again, I'm not paying a second reconnect. Emerson's voice came on, closer, soft. Mum's having a hard day. She just needs you to meet her halfway. I did, I said. I paid $75 to get your heat back on. I made you a binder with numbers and steps. You have the tools. We could have done this as a family, Mum said. Your father would have wanted warmth. Warmth is a choice, I said. I looked at my radiator, at the little chip of paint that kept not getting fixed, and thought about Dad tilting his chin at the thermostat. You know the number. Silence. Not the charge kind, just the empty kind that happens when there isn't anything left to say that isn't a repeat. You're going to regret this, Mum said, but it didn't land like it used to. I'm going to make dinner, I said. Call me when you've sent the $312. Otherwise, don't call for money. Emerson tried one last angle, voice honeyed. Just this once? Cover the next bill and I'll... No, I said, and ended the call clean. I put the phone on Do Not Disturb and turned to my cutting board. Onion, garlic, a can of tomatoes. The ordinary alchemy. I let the sauce simmer and put on Dad's old radio station from the kitchen speaker, the one that plays 70s rock on low volume like a heartbeat. At 4:20, even with Do Not Disturb, a notification slid down the top of my screen because money apps don't care about boundaries. Emerson has requested 75 $1 Note, reconnect fee. I actually laughed, one breath out my nose. They knew I'd already paid it. They were seeing if I'd hit accept out of habit. I tapped the notification, opened the request, and hit decline. The app asked me if I was sure. I was. I typed no, already paid. Account is in your names, and sent it in the little chat bubble under the request. The read receipt popped up in seconds. No reply. I wiped the counter, put the pasta on, ate at the edge of the counter while steam fogged the window. The sun sank without drama. The radiator popped in the wall like somebody far away clapping once. At 5:07, Michaela sent me a picture of her cat in a paper bag and the words, dinner. Tomorrow, I wrote back. Tonight, I'm protecting my peace like it's a patient chart. She sent a stethoscope emoji. I loaded the dishwasher and put the pan to soak. When the clock on my stove hit 5:50, a flurry of texts buzzed in the unknown senders tab that I didn't open. I made mint tea and stood with my hip against the counter. My apartment held the day's heat in a way the house never did, like the walls agreed with me. At 5:58, my phone lit up with the alert I'd been waiting for, right on the lock screen, where even Do Not Disturb lets it through. Payment received, 312 $12 from Emerson. Memo. I took a screenshot without thinking and filed it in the house. Close folder. I didn't text back. I didn't send a thumbs up. I didn't do the thing where I make it easier to do the bare minimum by lavishing it with praise. I turned the burner under the kettle off and listened to the tiny noises my apartment makes when it's settling. Pipes ticking, a neighbour's door, the soft scrape of a branch against the window. 5 minutes later, the unknown sender's tab flashed again with a string of messages and then went still. I didn't open it. I poured the tea, wrapped my hands around the mug, and sat on the floor with my back against the couch. The blue binder sat on the shelf above me, spine out, neat and heavy. I didn't reach for it. I didn't need to. The radiator breathed. Somewhere on our old street, a furnace kicked on and ran. By morning, the house across town was just another address. Lyle texted before I left for work. A photo from his porch. No orange cords, no little cube heater winking like a bad idea. He followed it with, "Sounds normal again." Furnace is humming. I can hear it from the walk. Good, I wrote back. Thank you for keeping an eye. No messages from Mum. None from Emerson. The $312 sat in my app like a small, tidy brick with a snowflake on it. I screenshotted it and dropped it into the house, closed folder with everything else. Then I printed it because paper is how my brain believes things are finished. The page slid out warm. I slid it into the binder behind the reconnection receipt. At the clinic, it was flu-shot day chaos. Stickers and crying and then laughing. It was good to stand in something that had nothing to do with thermostats. On my break, Michaela tossed me a granola bar and mouthed, "Done." I nodded. She held up 2 fingers for dinner, and I held up one for tomorrow. She saluted with a granola wrapper. On my lunch, I checked my bank app. Nothing weird, no new Autopays trying to resurrect themselves. The card replacement email pinged to say my new one was in the mail. I filed that too. When I drove past the old street on my way home, I didn't slow down, but my eyes went there anyway. Our porch, the listing wreath, the storm door glass reflecting a winter sky. Lyle was at his mailbox. He looked up, spotted me, and gave a little 2-finger wave. I waved back. That felt like closure more than anything anyone could say. Back at my apartment, I pulled the blue binder from the shelf and set it on the table. I added the printout of the payment and one more sheet with the passcode I'd set on my utility profile, just so future me wouldn't have to dig. Then I stood on a chair and tucked the binder on the highest shelf in my hall closet, spine out, reachable if I needed it, but not easy. I stepped down and closed the door. The click sounded final in a way I could live with. No one had thanked me. That was fine. The point had never been gratitude. It was math and names on accounts and the cause and effect no one could argue with. You make the call, the heat comes back on, you pay what you owe, my card stays mine. The cemetery is 5 minutes from my place if the lights all go my way. I filled a thermos with coffee, pulled on my coat, and drove the way Dad used to. 2 hands on the wheel, radio low like everything around you deserves a little respect. The ground was hard and the wind needled, but the sun dropped a pale coin on the far trees and held there. He's in the section near the stone angel that lost a finger years ago. I brushed a dry leaf off the top of his marker and unscrewed the thermos. The steam spilled out and I cupped my hand over it. "Hey," I said. "We figured the heat." My breath made a small cloud and drifted away. I got the account out of my name. They transferred. I paid 1 reconnect and then they paid me back. I took a sip and let the heat move down. "I think you'd like that I wrote it down and did it once. You always like to plan." A crow landed on the fence and stared like it had something to add. I laughed a little. "Michaela says hi. Lyle says the furnace is humming. Mum is Mum. M is M. I'm not mad. I'm just not on Autopay." I stood there until my coffee cooled and my fingers protested. Then I tucked the thermos back in my bag and pressed my palm to the cold stone. It didn't warm up. That felt honest. Home was a small exhale when I opened the door. The radiator ticked like it was telling a story I already knew. I hung my coat, set the thermos in the sink, and thumbed through my phone out of habit. Nothing from the family. A cat photo from Michaela with a caption about noodles. I sent back a bowl emoji and set the phone face down. The thermostat clicked, and the room shifted a half-degree toward comfort. It wasn't dramatic, just steady. I put the dead house key out of my glove box and dropped it into a jar on my dresser with other things I keep but don't use. Seashells, buttons from coats I don't own anymore. It sounded like any other piece of metal when it landed. I rinsed the thermos and wiped the counter. In the quiet, I could hear a neighbour's laugh through the wall and the streetlight humming like it had somewhere to be. I made toast because dinner didn't have to be complicated to do its job. My apartment stayed warm, so did my boundaries,